Can be a pain to get out. It helps to have a tool. If you get them out a little bit, you normally yank them out with the pliers. Once they've been in and out a few times, they're easier to get out. And these have been in and out a couple of times. Anyway, there's several of these around the inside fender well. You gotta get those out. Remove the inside fender well. Whenever you remove this inside fender well, there's always going to be one of these you can't get out. It's between the body and the frame. Just leave it in there and fold the fender well out of the way. Hopefully you can get in and do what you need to do. Today we're going to be back here working on the few filler holes. Okay, here's a hose I'm going to try to remove. It's a few filler neck, goes up to the gas cap. I'm going to disconnect the hose right there. And we're going to have to go back here and disconnect the hose from the gas tank. I'm going to replace that with a GM part, because Chrysler can't get their shit together. Small ratchet and an 8mm socket is going to be needed to get that hose connection off of the tank there. For what it's worth, this is where I've got the Jeep supported here. You get the hose clamp loose, you'll need to remove the gas cap filler here. And you should be able to pull that out of there off the tank easy enough and work on it with that out of the vehicle. The small head screws go in the body. The large head screws go in the filler neck. Small screws in the body, large in the filler neck. Okay, there's a zip tie holding this one vent hose to the filler tube. I'll go ahead and clip that, replace that later. Get that off there. There's another vent tube here. Let me need to disconnect. I went ahead and found a cap for it just to put on it and keep any debris out of it. I'm going to try and get in here and clean this stuff up a lot better before I pull that hose off the tank, trying to keep any debris out of the tank. As I was twisting and pulling on there to get this off of the gas tank, I found that this was just banging around inside the fender. I went ahead and zip tied a rag on it, because it took some work to get that out of there. And I was just banging the inside there. I didn't want to do that. Didn't take but a second, and I kept from beating up the Jeep. Pulling that off of there. I'm going to put a cover on that gas tank for a while I'm working on this hose. We'll see what happens from here. Okay, here we have the fuel hose removed. Filler tube or fuel hose. This is what we're going to try and replace with this that has the flapper valve in it here. This little bulged area, there's a flapper valve in there. I'll show you that. Don't even bother trying to loosen that clamp on the Jeep. It's going to be tough to get that off of there. Now I can loosen it and get that off of there. I'm going to have to come up with a length to match this one. We're going to cut that right off, cut that clamp right off of there, and then shorten the other end, and hopefully not get a kink bind in it where it collapses in the end. We can get a little bend up here and get a little bend down here and put some clamps on it and reinforce it maybe and make it work. We're going to make it work. We're going to do this. Okay. And it's my understanding so far, there's the flapper in here. I'm going to show you that. Okay, when you orientate this and put it back, put this end on the gas tank, this end on the filler tube, that flapper in there needs to be orientated like so. I think you can see that. There's a little hinge across the top. The hinge doesn't go across the center, it goes across the top. If you could take the gas cap off of the filler tube and look down in here and see this, which you can't when it's all assembled, but if you could, that would be the orientation. Now with this off the Jeep, it was real easy to get a screwdriver in here. Carefully get it in there, don't destroy the hose. But I was able to get it in there and pry it and loosen it up and get it off. That would have been a real bear on the Jeep. Now, don't throw this hose away, because if all else fails, I've heard you can cut this flapper out of here and insert it into your old tube. They sound a little far-fetched, but if all else fails, might have to try it. Don't throw your hose away. Now I'm going to cut about 1 1/8 off of here. I'm going to cut this new hose just past the clamp here, about 1 1/8. I'd like to be able to shorten it more, but that wouldn't leave me with enough of the larger diameter to fit back over the gas tank. You cut that too short and that's not going to push back down the tank far enough. Don't cut this too short. You got to have that kind of area to fit back on that tank of the larger diameter. I'm going to cut it pretty short, but maybe a little bit more than 1 1/8, and then I'm going to have to take some off the other end. Okay, here's what I got so far. There's the new hose on there. There's the piece of hose that I cut off. And I can move it into any position I want right now. If I get a kink in this, when I get that hose in there and I get a kink in it somewhere, I can tighten that up over the kink and hopefully take that out. We'll see what happens. That's what I got so far. I've taken 1 2/8 off the clamp, the original clamp end, the large diameter. I've taken 1 2/8 off of it, and I've cut what appears to be the same length as the old hose. I may want, if I shorten anything else, I'm going to take it off of the tank end. I'm going to get that in there, see if I can make it fit. Okay, there we have the finished product. There was a kink in the hose above the tank, right above the tank connection. And I was able to take that removed piece of hose and squeeze that kink, and I think we'll be just fine. I've got a full tank of gas right now. It'll be maybe a couple days before I can test it. Probably some bike riding weather right now. I'm gonna leave the Jeep in the garage, but I'm gonna get out here and test it. That's the finished product. If you're doing this, you probably should go ahead and remove that inner fender skirt and just kind of lay it there out of the side. Give yourself plenty of room to work. Get her done. Hope this works. There you have it.